On the line with us is Davin Coburn in New York City. He is with Popular Mechanics magazine. Popular Mechanics has expanded on a series of articles they've had about the 9/11 and what they call the 9/11 myths. They have expanded it into a book. The book is called Debunking 9/11 Myths: Why Conspiracy Theories Can't Stand Up to the Facts. The foreword to 9/11 Myths, by the way, is by our senior snowy-haired senator from Arizona, Senator John McCain. And Davin, thanks very much for being on our show this morning.
Hey, thank you for having me.
Yeah. I'm going to let callers and listeners who are particularly concerned with this have at you on the show. I'll give the phone number to them. 602-277-KFNX is the phone number. 602-277-5369. First of all, what is your job at Popular Mechanics, and why are you speaking with me?
Sure, I'm the research editor here at the magazine. I was an original reporter on the magazine piece in the March 2005 issue, and then my role for this book was largely to fact-check the material in it.
All right.
To make sure that everything there was accurate.
All right, that sounds good to me. Now, I think I think of it from the perspective of being a magazine editor. It's a perfectly good subject. It's a really juicy, it's a really delicious subject. But there are those that go, what the hell's Popular Mechanics know about it? Why did they decide to make this a cause to live?
Sure. Well, the reason that we went after it is that being here in New York, we'd heard all sorts of rumors. We'd heard various theories and, people questioning what happened on September 11th. And we thought, if there's any truth to these rumors, if there's information that hasn't been given to the public, if there's things that need to be looked into, that we were the perfect people to do that with our history in structural engineering and our examination of construction and demolition and our background in aviation and some of the other things that we specialize in. We were able to sort of pick through the politics and just look at the basic facts of what happened on that morning.
All right, well, you said something intriguing there. Is there information that has not been given to the public?
I think very little, because, we've had so many different people, everyone from reporters to structural engineers to professors at colleges and universities to people who've put together what are considered sort of official reports on the issue, even though they're not, government employees. I think there is actually very little that isn't, that has been held back, at least as far as the basic facts of what happened that morning in terms of the material that we looked into.
Well, I was under the impression that there were a lot of facts that were withheld. I mean, the surveillance videos, for example, around the Pentagon that we were told about. There was their hotel video, a convenience store video, and we haven't seen those. They were apparently swooped up and grabbed really quickly, or so the report goes.
So the report does go, and actually that is the case, and those have been taken as part of larger criminal investigations. Slowly those are now being disclosed, and those are coming out into the public, with the Judicial Watch material.
Well, I talked to guys at Judicial Watch. They're not real happy about it. I mean, they released 4 frames that don't really show anything?
Well, those frames, you're right, those frames actually don't show very much, considering that, the frame rate on that camera was about 1 frame a second, and the plane was moving, Flight 77 was moving about 780 feet per second. From that distance, it's actually not surprising that there wasn't a whole lot caught on that video.
Well, are you telling me that's the only video?
No, I suspect there are other videos. I suspect that they're still being used for various investigations. I don't know exactly how.
Well, what the hell's to investigate? They told us who the guys were. They held on some of that stuff for the vicarious Moussaoui trial, for love of God. I mean,
right.
like it was really relevant to his trial. What the hell? It's 5 years later. When are the American people entitled to the evidence?
I think there is plenty of evidence that exists out there to explain...
Well, it's not the evidence that we've seen that we're concerned about. It's the evidence we haven't seen. Does that make any sense?
Oh, sure, it makes sense. I think for the purposes of what we looked into, the evidence actually exists. There are the sources exist, the first responders exist to talk to these people, to examine what happened on that morning. And you were asking about the focus of our article. For what we looked into, the evidence is abundant. It's not, there's plenty of stuff out there that we could find in this article and in this book also.
It's the dog that didn't bark, maybe. I mean, we know that the evidence that we've seen is the evidence that we've seen. that doesn't cause any suspicion so much as the evidence that we don't see. And, you know, it's not helpful in this country with a very secretive government when a big, powerful magazine like you guys, who owns Popular Mechanics?
Hearst.
Okay, when Hearst Corporation, with all of your might, instead of joining the people in their natural curiosity to see all the evidence, you try to say, oh, shut up, you peons don't know what you're talking about, everything's fine, you don't need, keep on moving, there's nothing to see here. Hearst should be using their influence to get all the evidence released, and that will end all the conspiracy talk. Right?
Well, you know, I actually disagree with your take on our approach to that article there. I think our approach, the article was started, as I mentioned, because we were curious to see if there was truth behind these theories and all the questions. You know, what we've heard a lot is people saying, we're just trying to keep an open mind, and we fully support that. But what we've also found is that when people ask questions, they have to be willing to listen to the answers.
Yeah, well, I'm okay with that, but I want to come back to the unseen evidence, the dog that didn't bark. I mean, where are you on these? I mean, you guys have got a lot of muscle. Where are you in lobbying for the release of all the evidence to put an end to all this madness, speculation, and distrust?
I think that we would like to see as much evidence presented as possible. Frankly, it's not up to us what information the government discloses.
No, did I say it was up to you? No, I said use your influence to get the authorities. Look, the authorities are saying, well, is there something that we don't know about this that they have to hide from us? No. Or so I presume. We're told who did it. We've invaded 2 countries in response to it. We've spent hundreds of billions of dollars. I mean, what could possibly be secretive now?
How can I answer the question if it's evidence?
Because you don't know. Yeah, you don't know. We just want to see the evidence. I mean, if the plane flew into the building, show us the damn pictures. I mean, what could that possibly hurt? Speculate.
I can't possibly speculate on evidence that I haven't seen.
All right. The only thing that is the thing I suppose that is of most interest to me in the series about what happened that day, the one that's the most interesting is Building 7. It may not be the most interesting, but it's the first one I turn to. And I read Popular Mechanics' response to it, in which you represent, as a little bit confusing, but you represent that there is a third of the face, you're quoting Sunder, there is a third of the face to the center and to the bottom, approximately 10 stories, about 25% of the depth of the building that was scooped out beforehand.
Right. When the North Tower collapsed, all of the debris and the wreckage from that collapse actually took a massive chunk out of World Trade Center 7. And the first time that FEMA released its initial report, that wasn't entirely clear. It wasn't known exactly how much damage that building had sustained because obviously no plane hit that. It was sort of standing off to the side and then eventually collapsed. And what we found through the NIST report and through talking to other experts was that, like you said, about 25% of the building's south face had been carved away from it. And World Trade Center 7 had a particularly unique construction because it was built over a Con Edison electrical substation. So when they built it up above that, the way that they aligned the steel columns made them particularly load-bearing. That's not a very good way to say it, but they were each supporting an awful lot of weight. And so when you start carving away at those, each column that you remove that was destroyed by the wreckage from the North Tower.
Well, as I describe myself, Devin, I'm an agnostic about a lot of this, and that would be very persuasive to me if it were true. And it may or may not be true. Because I look at, so I go, oh, that's interesting. If that's true, then that would go a long ways to explaining what happened to Building 7. So I turn to the pictures in your book about Building 7. You got a picture of Building 7, but it doesn't show that. So I'm going, okay, well, instead of just somebody asserting that a third of the building was scooped away, show me the picture, but you don't show me the picture.
Well, here again, there's an interesting issue that you brought up before. We have seen pictures, actually. There are pictures that are the property of the New York Police Department and other various governmental agencies that we were not given permission to disseminate. And that gets back to your original question. I cannot speak for
But
why.
you got to see it. Popular Mechanics got to see them, but the average American citizen can't see them.